Thank you very much, Simon, and hello everybody. I'm really pleased to be here, and for those of you that may have spotted the film camera at the back of the room, this presentation is being recorded and will be shown in Reading a bit later, so hello to those of you that will be looking at this later in Reading. NHS South of England have also got an event today that they wanted me to talk at. What I want to do is just give you a little bit of background about some of the things that I think are important. What actually drives me, what makes me get up in the morning, do the things that I want to do, what do I feel passionate about, and set out some of the context around what I'd like to do as the new CNO. When Tricia talked to me about the title of this programme, so I see the person in every patient, it immediately brought back something that I used to do quite a lot as a student nurse and once I qualified, and I'll come back to that as we go through the day. What I want to do is start off with this quote from Chris Beasley, who is, as you know, the current Chief Nursing Officer. I think this really epitomises the role that we fulfil. It is absolutely fundamental to quality healthcare, and there isn't anything that happens to patients that we don't have a role in. So the impact of nurses and nursing midwifery is significant, and one that I think we shouldn't underestimate, and one that others shouldn't underestimate about us. We cover and care for everybody from birth to death and every part in between. It's a huge privilege to be a nurse, whether we're actually looking after women before they become pregnant, during pregnancy, in labour, young children, young adults, teenagers, the elderly. There is just a whole myriad of individuals, and we touch people at a time of absolute human need. And we also have the opportunity to influence people's health and well-being through not lecturing people, but actually having the opportunity around health improvement, health promotion. So it's really powerful. Simon's already talked about the need for compassion and care and seeing the person in every patient. And what I want to do is show you a DVD that was made by a lady called Amanda Waring. She made it after her mother died from leukemia, and it's based on something called The Crabbit Old Woman, which is a poem that I used to have on the wall when I was a student nurse. And when I was talking to Tricia, she had the same poem up. And the film just describes in a bit of detail what it means to be a patient, and for you to be able to see who that patient is. So if we play the DVD, that means I can stop for 10 minutes while we watch it. But it is, I think, worth it. And I was going to read bits of the poem, but I think this is much more powerful for us to have a look at. So I hope you enjoy it, and then I'll talk afterwards a little bit about what it is that I think we can do and how we can move nursing midwifery forwards.
Four times she called me last night. Last one, gone midnight. On for over an hour, going over to Sage. She went on about at 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I mean, it's not as if she hasn't got other friends she can't offload on to. Never mind. It's light as a feather, this one. Not any trouble getting her out. Anyway, finally, get to sleep at 2. Back up at 7 to come in again, and I'm on a double shift. What about you?
Nah, single.
Aren't you the lucky one?
Yeah. What's she saying?
Nothing. She had a stroke. She likes to make a fuss every now and then. Don't you, dearie? That's quite moody, this one.
What's her name?
Mrs. Atkins. Oh, Aitkins. Mrs. Aitkins. That's something like that. A chart somewhere. Anyway, that
see, nurses? What do you see? Are you seeing when you're looking at me? A crabbit old woman, not very wise, uncertain of habit, with faraway eyes, who dribbles her food and makes no reply when you say, in a loud voice,
I do wish you'd try.
I do wish you'd try. Who, quite unresisting, lets you do as you will, with bathing and feeding, a long day to fill. Is that what you're thinking? Is that what you see? Then open your eyes. You're not looking at me. I'll tell you who I am as I lie here so still. As I move at your bidding, as I eat at your will. I'm a young child of 10. With a father and mother, brothers and sisters who love one another. A young girl of 16, with wings on her feet, dreaming that soon a true lover she'll meet. A bride now, at 20. My heart gives a leap, remembering the vows that I promised to keep. At 25 now, I have young of my own who need me to build a secure, happy home.
I have a little shadow and I'm going to read to you in a minute. Where's our other book now?
A woman of 30.
2 times 2
My young
is
now
4.
grow fast.
3 times 3 is 9. 4
Bound to
times
each other
4
with
is
ties
12.
that should last. At 40, my young sons
Bye, Mum.
will soon all be gone. But my man stays beside me to see I don't mourn. At 60, once more babies play round my knee. Again we know children, my loved one and me.
1, 2, 3.
Dark days are upon me. My husband is dead.
Mum.
I look at the future. I shudder with dread. For my young are all busy, with young of their own.
Mum,
And I think of the years and the love that I've known. I'm an old woman now. Nature is cruel. 'Tis a jest to make old age look like a fool. The body it crumbles. Grace and vigour depart. I now have a stone where I once had a heart. But inside this old carcass, a young girl still dwells. And now and again, my battered heart swells. I remember the joys. I remember the pain. And I'm loving and living life over again. I think of the years, all too few, gone too fast, and accept the stark fact that nothing can last. So open your eyes, nurses. Open and see, not a crabbit old woman. Look closer. See me.
Thank you. That film, I think, does really bring home the bit about, I see the person in every patient. But we know that there is an awful lot of work and a lot of good work and a lot of care and a lot of compassion. So I do not for 1 minute think that that is the case for every patient that we care for. But I think it's really important sometimes to think back to the words of that poem, and when we are talking, to patients, when we are treating people, when we're working together as teams, the impact that what we say, what we do can have. So my vision, what do I want? Why did I go into nursing? I went into nursing, to make a difference. I was talking to some student nurses last week, and I was talking about why I went into nursing. And my mum was in and out of hospital quite a lot when I was a teenager. So I saw quite a lot. I spent a lot of time in the local hospital, and it really made me want to do that job. I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to make a difference. And I still feel that, irrespective of what I'm doing, whether I'm working as a director or, as I was talking to Tricia last night, working as a nurse in the charity that I also support. And when I was thinking about how I would describe some of that, I came up with 4 of these 5 words, and I added the 5th last week after listening to Liz Fradd talk, and she added courage. So I think this really does epitomise what it is we do. We care. We care day in, day out. It's really important. But we do that with compassion. That's not just about what we say, it's how we say it, it's how we look, it's the touch, it's the non-verbal type of communication, it's the care and the compassion that we show to families and relatives, as well as the patients that we look after. A real commitment that nurses have got to make things better. Today I know will be a really good example of the fantastic work that's going on, both in Middlesbrough and also in the south of England. And I think when you look at some of the posters that are around this room, and I talk to some, and I will be coming and talking to a lot of you later, the work that you're doing is all around a commitment to make improvements and to move on. Communication is vital, not only with our patients and their relatives and carers, but also with each other, with our peers, with our colleagues, but with our managers and leaders. And I think that's vital. So for me, as part of my new role, I want to be able to communicate. I want to know what it's like for nurses, what they're doing, what's important, what you think should happen. And so, although I'm having to have lessons on Twitter, there will be an opportunity. I started doing blogs. I will be using Twitter to try and find different ways of connecting and communicating with people. And then the courage one is really about having the courage to sometimes make difficult decisions, the courage to talk and speak up when things are happening that you're not comfortable with, and the courage to really do what in many cases is quite hard for some of us to do, whether that be caring for patients on an individual basis or at times going to talk to people around things that you're not happy about. Why is it important to me? And I think this has been reinforced to me over many years. This is a picture of my husband, Chris. Chris died of leukemia just over 5 years ago, and I will always remember the care that he got. So I was a nurse, I was working in a national role at the time. He was treated in a London teaching hospital for a lot of his care. Fantastic. The environment was awful. It was really poor estate, but the staff from the ward domestic, when we arrived from Gloucestershire, absolutely scared stiff about what we were going into, said, "Do you want a cup of tea?" To the nursing staff, the clinical nurse specialist, the care of the nurses that worked in the oncology centre were just amazing. And when he died, or when he was dying, I took him home and I looked after him at home in Gloucestershire. And I was given fantastic support from the nurses, Macmillan, Marie Curie, the district nurses in our home village. And actually he was able to die at home with me with him, which is, what he obviously didn't want to, but that was what he wanted to do, was to be at home in our house. And so that has really stayed with me and will always stay with me. And I think everybody should have that opportunity to have that level of care and support. I talked a little bit about my mum earlier. These are my parents. They are both now quite elderly. They've both got multiple comorbidities. They are in and out of hospital quite a lot. I want people that look after them to be able to think about them as individuals. I want somebody to know that my mum is from South Wales, that she's a teacher, that her dad was a miner. My dad was the first of his family to go to university. He used to play rugby as a teenager. So it's things that were important to them and make them who they are is really important to me. And these are my nieces and their cousin. And I'm really close to my nieces. And what sort of future are we going to build for them? What's the NHS going to look like for them in the future? My niece, the older one, has just had massive orthodontal treatment on and it's doing really well. And she's had braces put in and teeth taken out, and she's been cared for brilliantly, and she's been very brave, and she's actually feeling really proud at what an impact it's having in terms of sorting out her mouth and her teeth. And the younger one in the middle, holding their cousin, keeps saying she can't decide what she wants to do. So at the moment, she's either going to go on stage and be a dancer, singer, actor, or she wants to be a nurse. So I've been trying to persuade her that actually being a health visitor might be an option, because we need to have lots of them. But no, seriously, it's a real dilemma for her. But she loves being on stage, and I'm sure that's what she'll try and do. But she's also saying, I want to do nursing. I want to go into the health service, Jane. I want to do what you do. And that's brilliant. But we need to build the future for our young. As nurses, as I said earlier, we do touch people, and this is just a very sort of basic picture of the areas that we work in. We're midwives, we're practice nurses, we're health visitors, we're community nurses, we work in hospitals, we work in hospices, etc. Huge range, massive opportunities. And the way I think we can make a real difference is through our Energise for Excellence programme. Some of you may have heard of it, some of you may not. This is a programme that I set up a couple of years ago now with Kath Fenton, who's now the chief nurse at UCLH, but used to be in South Central. And it's a bit like a social movement. It's about nurses working together, actually deriving improvements, using something in each of the 5 domains. And the philosophy and the story behind E4E is that we are able to energise individuals and teams to really want to make a difference and to do something in each of these 5 domains. And I'll just talk briefly about each of them. Getting staffing right is critical. And I don't just mean the numbers and skill mix issue. So this is around education, whether it be pre-registration, post-registration, ongoing personal development, absolutely important, as is the cultures, values and behaviours. So how do we recruit nurses at the moment? What do we do around values and behaviours? How does that work through things like ongoing appraisal, discussions that you have with your teams? So culture and values is important. There's an awful lot of stuff in the press at the moment about nurses being too posh to wash and, not able to, and not caring and are more academic. And I don't think that's true. But I also do think that we need to look at evidence-based staffing levels. We need to have a rationale for the staffing that we've got. We know that there is a strong correlation between the numbers and skill mix of staff and outcomes. But we also know that you can have wards of exactly the same type of patient, the same type of dependency, with the same numbers of staff, the same skill mix, and completely different outcomes. So it's about leadership, about personal commitment and drive, and it's about the people and the team that work there. So numbers and skill mix alone are not enough. And I think this is, I'm sure many of you, or all of you in this room would agree with this. Being highly educated and caring and compassionate is not mutually exclusive. And I find it very frustrating when people put those links together. And I also think it's an insult to a lot of our profession for people to say that. And so one of the things that I think I need to do, or I'm going to try and do, is try and get that really strong message across that says you can be academically qualified and intelligent people and still be compassionate and caring. Delivering care is really important as well. This is about using evidence-based innovation and best practice. It's about making sure that you do provide evidence-based care and that you do it to improve outcomes, that you are productive and efficient. We have got massive financial issues that we need to deal with. We do waste money, we do waste time, and we do probably repeat things that we don't necessarily need to repeat. So one of the things that the Nursing Care Quality Forum are looking at is how to reduce bureaucracy. So let's measure what's important and do it once. Use technology in a better way to make sure that we do less paperwork and give ourselves more time. But that we also deliver care in the right place. So we only look after patients in hospital when they need to be in hospital, that we look after patients in the environment in which they are best cared for with the best outcomes. Measuring impact is really important too. What you measure is important. What's important is what you measure. And quite often we measure things that actually maybe aren't that important. And it takes time and effort to do that. So we need to make sure that what we are measuring is the right things. But we use that measurement. So we don't just measure something, report it, and then don't do anything about it. We use it to continuously drive improvement. And we are transparent and open in that. And the northwest of England, and now the north, has been doing a transparency pilot for a while. And actually, there was one of your colleagues from South Tees came to an event we had in Bolton in the northwest a couple of weeks ago. And I think that's really important. So the hospitals there are actually producing regular information on a monthly basis, publishing it openly. They're all measuring the same thing, looking at falls, pressure ulcers, the way care is delivered, and both patient and staff experience, and being very transparent about that, but using it to drive improvement. And then the last two, I think, are critical. There is a strong link between the two. Positive staff experience leads to a positive patient experience. So let's look at having real-time monitoring, not an annual survey that measures staff experience every year. Let's do something that's much more frequent. Let's look at something monthly. Let's look when people say they're not very happy, let's understand why that is and what can we do about it. The friends and family test that's up there is something that is becoming increasingly key. That's the would you recommend question. So for patients, would you recommend this as a place to be cared for? And for staff, would you recommend this as a place to work? Or would you recommend this as a place for others, for your loved ones to be cared for? And those are really important. If staff don't feel able to recommend where they work as a place for their loved ones to go, then I think that really does raise key questions that we need to look at. For patients, it's about being informed and involved in their decisions, but also about taking some personal responsibility for their own health and well-being. So being positive and proactive about what they need to do to help themselves, as much as so not passive in terms of asking the NHS to always support them. That's clearly a really important role for us, but being proactive and looking after themselves. And in terms of our staff, doing what we can to make sure that jobs are rewarding, that they're worthwhile, people feel valued, people feel respected, is really important. The NHS Constitution, I think, describes very well to me what the NHS values are all about. You can read what's up there, but the one that I think is really important is, firstly, it belongs to us all, and it is there to improve health and well-being. and recognise that we can't always mean that not every patient recovers. But more importantly, it touches our lives at a time of really basic human need when care and compassion are what matters most. And every decision we make all the time impacts on our patients. So what do I want to see? Pride. I want us to have pride in our profession. I want others to respect nurses and midwives. And I want safe and effective care with good patient experience. It sounds a bit motherhood and apple pie, but it's really important. And trying to narrow down what it is we want to achieve to a couple of 2 or 3 key things is going to help us, I think. These are some quotes that I took from a DVD that was developed by the RCN, which talked to lots of nurses about what's important to them, the roles, nurse educator, nurse researcher, nurses in practice. And I think it sets up pretty well in those the sorts of things that people think about the role that they perform. And I want to end with a quote, a last quote, which is really this one. The most common way people give up their power is by thinking they don't have any. Every single one of you in this room, every single one of you in the room in Reading have power. Whatever job you do, you've got individual power that is important for you to use. And together, we can make a real difference. Thank you very much.